Hello and thanks for joining the Thursday edition of Journalist Hangouts. I'm Ayodele Ozubakun. Today on the program, NLC respite yet for new minimum wage implementation as marathon meeting between federal government Labour ends without agreement. Federal government moves to cut costs of governance as President Buhari slashes ESTACODES. Size of delegation of ministers, and later on the show, elders, party supporters disrupt INEC stakeholders meeting in Bayelsa as police is set to deploy 30,000 personnel for governorship election. I'll be hanging out with Mobolade Omonijo and Martins Oloja. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. The prolonged negotiations for consequential adjustment in the salary of the new minimum wage implementation is far from over. After a marathon meeting in Abuja on Wednesday, which was a fallout of a previous parley on Tuesday, the federal government and the organized labor are yet to reach a compromise. They shifted discussion till 7 p.m. today. Would there be a resolution? Gentlemen, Mubalade, as of yesterday, they met till 2 a.m. and they had to adjourn till 7 p.m. today, contrary to what some people reported that they've actually agreed terms. They are yet to agree on those consequential adjustments. What do you make of this situation?
Well, both. Number one, I am disappointed that it had to wait for this long to go into these final negotiations. But when it comes to 3 days, 4 days, you can be sure it's money matter. So it's going to be a little drawn out, really. So if they had taken the steps they are taking now, say after the signing of the thing in April, by June, July, we should have been able to settle everything. But I guess the government was waiting to start by 2020 or thereabouts. We are in October. October is about ending, so to say. So they probably pushed it forward, and now we are at the edge of the cliff, as it were. So I hope that by today they will be able to reach some agreement. I guess they would. I guess both sides know that they've shifted some ground. Both Labour and government have shifted ground a little, and I guess it's only trying to get the maximum you can. The federal government is not thinking of itself alone. The federal government has to think of the states. It's no use having Pyrrhic victory. The federal government had just said, okay, 29%, 24%, we give you, and the states are unable to pay after 3 months, we are back to square one. So I think 17, 14 or so, as the government is proposing, would have been a good idea, as it were. I think they should just be able to agree at something. Personally, I'm not impressed by all this push for just wages. It is good, because that's where we are. That's what the Constitution says. But what are we doing about the social services, which is what will take the money? What are we doing to improve our public schools so that we don't have to cut our noses to be able to pay in private schools? What are we doing about our public hospitals so that you don't go there and you queue up from morning till night, and that pushes you to Shylock hospitals where they take all the money from your purse? If you're able to do that, and you cut all those things that take money from us, and you invest very well in them, then there wouldn't be too much on just talking about the cash that goes to the worker. But all those ones have been left. This year, you looked at the budget. We were discussing it on this program. The budget, what went into education? What has gone into health? And even our minister has said that nobody is hungry in Nigeria. No, nobody is thinking about some of these things. If you are able to invest very well in those things, and then you mark up the salary a little. But the workers know that nobody is paying attention to all those issues. Housing, food, education, health, nobody is paying attention to them. So they have to pay everything from their purse. Public transportation is really not available in the states, as it were. So I think that both sides should be ready to make some very good concessions. The critical concession is what we are waiting for.
Martins, this is like the first half of the battle. As this is going, it is ongoing between the federal government and the labor union. And when they reach the kind of agreements, the states, I don't know, maybe it will definitely be binding on the states. But how
it's binding.
Practicable is it for those states, for some states, to be able to pay?
You see, this is actually, I think, this is not election time where what you say will say, oh, you don't want them to win election. This is the time to speak truth to power. Yeah. It's the time we should not hide anything because things are not, don't mind the minister who said nobody is hungry here. It's a problem. It is not a time to be speaking in tongues. This is the age of the big data. They should have worked out all these things even before it was signed into law. You don't wait until this time before you start looking for mathematicians, looking for the people who are working out details, out consequences of this thing. They should have known. They have civil servants. They have wages commission in Abuja there who should have worked out all these things. And they look at the budget details because there is this nexus between one of the topics that we have not discussed here as he went into it, cutting cost of governance and this negotiating wage. The states, Kaduna may have blazed some trail by saying that they will do the Lagos may be saying so, but this is one of the reasons I want us to emphasize this thing, that people are talking about restructuring. People are talking about fiscal federalism so that the states can negotiate what they can pay. But all this idea of centralization of everything, centralization of everything, including the minimum wage, this is one of the consequences. Now the federal government is battling with its own. The states will still have to battle with the local labor unions.
Yes.
Because not all the states can pay. The states can rush to Abuja every month to take whatever they want to take in this revenue, this kind of a peculiar idea in our own federalism, where states wait, they do nothing every month, they go to Abuja, they share. In Abuja, fingers are not equal. And when they return home, they know. And also, this is a signal that there will be more problems because you cannot say that these are federal workers. The national minimum wage law is a federal law, and it is binding on all the states of the federation. So this is a signal. He has discussed the detail to us that the head of the federal government, Mr. President, should listen to the voice of reason, which tells us every day that we should restructure so that these states can take care of their destiny according to the proportion of the resources that they have, according to the proportion of the faith that they have.
Say that the standard of living in Lagos is quite different
it's
from
different from the one of Rivers. It's different from the one in Borno State. It's different from Calabar. Look at, you carved out Cross River from Akwa Ibom. But Akwa Ibom is richer than Cross River.
Richer.
It's a neighbor, Rivers. When you get out of River State, where do you get to? You are very, very close to Edo. You are coming down. They are part of South-South. Even within the South-South, fingers are not equal.
No.
And I think we should not trivialize this discussion points on restructuring of the federation so that the states can negotiate, so that people will know who to ask. But the idea of mentioning Buhari, the minister, all the time when we are talking of local matters in a federation of 36 states and 774 local governments, these are the consequences. Abuja is discussing its own. Now it's having headache. They will have migraine when it comes to negotiating this thing in the states. And the states will not say, oh, okay, but you go to Abuja according to certain formula. You have agreed. This is a federal law. You have to implement it. You are saying that you don't have money, but when you have your fleet of cars, you won't talk about this thing. When you are taking your security vote, you won't talk about this thing. And I think even in the other discussion that we will have, I want to add this, that these state governors, their lifestyles, and the way they spend their security votes what they do with money anyhow. And I think this is a time of reckoning for them. The workers, and when we are talking of workers now, nobody is even talking about us who are not part of the public sector. What is the percentage of these people we are negotiating for in the federation that has, as Lekon Sote said here yesterday, a recurrent expenditure is 76% and capital expenditure is 24%. This recurrent, they are talking about the one for the public servants. What is the percentage? Probably 5% or what?
Not to.
About 3%.
So what is there? What is in for the rest of us who are not part of this public sector? You see, what they are looking at, which is the elephant in the room they don't want to talk about all the time, the debt service obligations, the cost recovery, you know, they are calling subsidy, another name now, cost recovery. These burdens are there. You find it in the newspapers, in the budget details. What is the cankerworms that will not allow them to be able to even meet obligations to this percentage we are talking about? They already have headache. I think we should what we should take away from this discussion is the need for the political actors, the political class, the ruling class, and the elite who benefit from them to come down and put pressure on the political parties. Because the political parties are there in the Constitution, not for any trite reason that you don't have independent candidates. Political party organization, because some of these things can be discussed at political party level. We were not too young, even in the Second Republic here, when you have UPN and MPN, they had ideologies, and they had programs that they were implementing, and once the party says, this is what you are going to implement in your state, this is what you are going to do, that was what they were going to do. But now, they do not have any program, they don't have any say, people just rule by intuition. You can't continue like this. I think the need to restructure this federation is important now, because the structure that Abuja decides all the time holds us down as a federation, and I think we need to do that immediately. It's not a political matter. It is about the destiny of the most populous black nation on earth, about Nigeria.
A lot of people will say the unitary system of government, as he has identified, as in we claim to be practicing federalism, but everything is unitary. Now, moving forward, you have some even countries that you know that they even have different Supreme Courts, state by state.
Yeah.
Minimum wage from the states, from this state is different from that state. Do you understand? And when you are looking at it now, there will still be this crisis that Labour and federal governments they are facing. It will be replicated at the state level.
No doubt about that.
When some states might not be able to meet this obligation. Is it that they do that or they downsize?
18,000, some states are not paying.
Yes.
Even though it is law. 18,000, some states are not paying, let alone the private sector. That is the truth. The big private sector players are paying above. Even this 30,000 is not strange to them. But the smaller ones, the medium-term ones that have employees of some 30, some 40, and some of them cannot pay. They are not paying. The economy requires more attention of all to start with, and then talking about the structure. It is obvious that over the years it has been proven. You mentioned the courts, the judicial system. Even in our first republic, you might have had only one Supreme Court, but you had courts of appeal.
Yes.
The Western region had its own court of appeal.
Yes.
Olumide Ajibolu and God, they were there. You had. So, but now everything is over-centralized. There's an agency that rules everything all over the country.
Yeah.
No, obviously, some of these things need to be, and the federal government takes the lion's share of all the money that comes in, and cannot. You now have so many agencies at the federal level that are doing absolutely nothing.
Or duplication.
Duplication. Some don't. They don't even know what it's created for. Quite a number of them. So we need to pay attention to that. The federal government doesn't need to go into many of these things. It wants to micromanage Nigeria.
Yeah.
And it's the Constitution that is to be blamed. When we come to cost of governance, like you said, a number of things will come up really there, but a lot of things is wrong. this minimum wage issue, what should go into the purse of the Nigerian workers? It is true that they are not being paid living wages. It is true that it needed to be jacked up. It is true that they've already agreed on the minimum, that is the 30,000 naira. And it's also true that levels 1 to 6 has been settled at the federal level. You have problem 7 to 14, and you have problem 15 to 17. And that is yet to be resolved. That should be resolved without further delay. It should not be allowed to lead to any form of strike. The economy is fragile already. It cannot be allowed to be tottered here and there by another strike. So the federal government, the state, it's unfortunate that they allowed us to get to the brink before they are coming to this negotiation. But that's where we are now. So they should arrive at something today, not push us into whether labor now has to call everybody out to test its strength.
Like what you said earlier, what is in it for the common man that is not a civil servant?
Yes, the informal sector.
The informal sector.
Which is larger than any other thing.
You have a country that we are left with 24% for capital expenditure.
That is not, they won't even release everything.
Virtually all the roads we have in the country, you know, comatose, infrastructure overstretched and everything. And you begin to look at the lot of that man that is not a member of Nigerian Labour Congress, is not a government worker.
You just made an important point where I wanted to make this point about the road network. I just read a journal about the development in China, that when they thought of fighting poverty, that they began with massive construction of road network. That the way to fight poverty in any big country, in any good country, in any federation,
is the construction industry.
Construction of road network first. Really? Yes, road network in China. If you Google it, you will find a journal article, not just an opinion article, that if you want to alleviate poverty, how does it work? What we need from this 24% or whatever percentage that they've given to capital vote is to, now, after this, I should be able to get to Ibadan even after this program in a good country. What is Ibadan? We used to do this Ibadan less than an hour before civilization kicked us in the face. So this issue now is when the farmers in Benue is not far from here, but how do they get their farm products? It's the fruit basket of the nation. But let's do a study of what is wasted in Benue State alone, not to talk of Southwest, where we are now. We do not have good road networks. There is no good road from Lagos here to Abeokuta, as I've been writing.
Absolutely.
There is no good road even from Ado-Ekiti to Akure. There is no good road from Ibadan to Osogbo, not to talk of where the farmers are.
The rural areas.
Yes, in the rural areas. If you want to help the people, let there be roads everywhere. If you go to South Africa here, there's some villages where people go. They don't have to go to any other town or neighboring village to get what they want. You have good road network, water, electricity, and every good thing. Even all these ranches we are talking about, ranches, they are there. People live in their ranches. All this one we call in Ruga that we just talk about anyhow. They are not bad things after all. But we are at the roads to all these places. Why should I retire from The Guardian and want to stay in Lagos or Abuja or anywhere? Why can't I go to my village? Why can't you go to your village? But can you? So can you? You don't want to live there because what are you going there to? Even the road to that place is terrible. There is nothing there. There's no electricity. What the common man needs is not their money. We need critical infrastructure. Look at, we are always comparing this thing here with South Africa. They are about 50 million people. They have about 48,000 megawatts of electricity.
That's true.
We have been talking about 5,000 here. Before you know it, you say it has dropped.
Yes.
There is no gas to anything. There is no, you don't have this, you don't have that. It has dropped to 2,000, it has dropped to 3,000. Total collapse of the system. There is no electricity. You don't have road. You don't have water. You don't have anything. One thing we do hardly talk about is mass transit system. This is one federation.
Very important.
Where we do not talk about mass transit system. No government, no governor is addressing it. We can be talking about it. These are the things that they need to commit a lot of money to, not just wages. We shouldn't be talking about, we have Okada and Keke. It's an Okada and Keke economy that we are talking about, and it is not good for us. Good road network everywhere. Let me be able to get, Abuja is not far from this place, just that there is no road. Akure is not far. Maiduguri is not far.
Good road and good road
you have
system.
good road. Why should I go to the airport? There are some citizens in some countries who do not fly at all. They don't know where their airports are located. They don't have to, because they like driving. You have a good car. You want to go to your village. You want to go to your farm. Why can't I have a farm in my village and be able to get there on Friday or Saturday? But how do I get there? So these are the issues. So it's not rocket science. Our people have to show seriousness, pay attention. I think he used the word. Have to pay attention to all these little details to the people. They have to connect with the people. They have to be thinking day and night. What do we do for the people? What is in need? Is in this budget for the people beyond the minimum wage earners? What is in it?
Well, they're going to meet 7 p.m.
7 p.m.
And what do you expect from that meeting?
Well, they said they have subcommittees that are looking at statistics and coming up with issues. It is a shame. It's a shame that we are just talking of statistics and all that now. Something that by the time you are starting the negotiation at all those statistics should be on the table. They should be there. Why do we have civil servants? Why do we have the National Planning Ministry?
You have wages, salaries and wages commission.
RMALC is also there.
Yes, Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission.
They're all there. Why are they there? Why can't they tap into the computer? They print out these things for us.
Bureau of Statistics.
These are issues.
National Bureau of Statistics.
It is a shame that in the 21st century, this is where we operate as if we are in the 17th century. So I expect that nonetheless, they will be able to wrap up the issues today. And then the country can move on. But we should not forget the other issues that are around it.
All right, still to come. Federal government moves to cut costs of governance as President Buhari slashes ESTACODES. Stay with us. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back after this time out. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Journalist Hangout. We're reaching you live from Television Continental here in Lagos, Nigeria. Desperate time requires desperate measures, and only desperate leaders can make the plunge. Now, it has been argued in many quarters that a cash crunch country like Nigeria should take measures to cut costs of governance, which is taking a sizable portion of the annual budget. President Muhammadu Buhari appears to be heeding this clamor. On Wednesday, the president approved a directive that travel days for ministers, director generals, and other top government officials will no longer attract payment of ESTACODES and certain days outside official trips. According to the directive, ministers, permanent secretary, chief executive officers, and directors in the ministry are restricted to not more than 2 foreign travels in a quarter, and the size of such delegation should not exceed 4. Gentlemen, this desperate measures, man, because we said it yesterday when we analyzed the 2020 budgets. So the federal government is going to have to borrow.
Borrowing about 2.something trillion naira. About 2 trillion.
To finance that particular budget, and we have to service our debts to a tune of 2 trillion.
About
and
20%.
Revenue generation from the figures we saw in 2019 dropped substantially. And what we're looking at, a lot of people have been talking about the cost of governance. It started with Richard Okorocha talking about the Senate. That's why not 1 senator per state instead of 3? Then the chairman of the Governors Forum, Kaide Fahimi, actually suggested that why can't unicameralism be scrapped and we focus on the unicameral and the Senate be scrapped. So a lot of people have been talking about cutting costs, our government. Now to the executive. The executive, they are now looking inward. Those things that, you know, at the end of the day, that actually add to that recurrent expenditure. We spoke about the recurrent expenditure to a tune of 70-something% for the 2020 budgets. And these travels, these ESTACODES, foreign ESTACODE training, and all these things got us to the extent of, you know, financing a budget of 75% recurrent expenditure.
The truth of the matter is that, yes, it's true, it's good that they are thinking about it because it's a major problem, but we are merely scratching the surface. I don't see anything desperate about it yet. The desperate measures will...
Travel 2 times only per quarter.
It is good. I mean, but it's just scratching the surface. What you said Okorocha suggested is one major way of going. Yeah. We have to do something major. Then why do we need a cabinet of 43 ministers? Oh, wow. To do what? What are they doing?
But our constitution is specifying...
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
We need to go beyond the constitution has said this and so on. We have not recognized how serious the matter is. The executive, the legislature, they must put heads together. The political elite must agree that this country is, like Ademola said in the Second Republic, that it was approaching a brink, the ship of state. It's approaching a rock. So we have to do something seriously, something desperate. We are not doing anything yet. We must think about the size of the legislature. We must think of the cost of running the legislature. We cannot be spending 13.5 million naira every month on a senator as running costs. It doesn't make sense. In a country where we are battling over 30,000 naira as minimum wage. To do what? We have to cut all these things. If we must go for unicameral legislature, so be it. If we must not, let the legislature, let the Senate be maybe one person, and let the House of Reps be cut to not more than 120 or thereabouts. We don't need 360 men to do what? How many of them even attend the plenary? Don't we see empty seats every day? In the committee work, how much of committee work do they do? How serious is they have all sorts of legislative aids. What is the output that we see? We need to be serious. We need to move beyond this. We have to take very serious measures. We have not seen much. You cannot travel more than twice in 1 quarter. When you go, you cannot go with more than four-member delegation, and so on, to save you some pittance.
To travel business class.
Yeah, it will save you a pittance. We need to be able to cut all these things by maybe about 1/3 or more for us to be able to feel the impact. And then we must be able to be disciplined in implementing things. We are not yet serious. We must get serious.
Martins, have we not started somewhere? A journey of 1,000 miles the same begins with a step. If Mr. President is making this move.
Well, you know, this is 21st century. Like I said earlier, it is not a time to speak in tongues. It's a time to address specific issues. Disruptive technologies have brought so many things out. Nothing is secret anymore. What is the cost that will be saved from this? I have been covering all these ministers more than 30 years. I know what they do. The president can say his own. They will talk about doctrine of necessity to travel, and they will travel. So the issues to address, even for them, I know what they get agencies to do once the ministers are sworn in. They get agency heads to rent houses for them, to furnish their houses, to furnish guest houses and all what have you. We know. So there is room for restructuring now. Real restructuring from what Okorocha himself. We know that it will be very difficult, as we noted at our editorial board meeting yesterday, that it will be difficult to get the Senate to scrap itself. It will be very, very difficult. It is good. Talk is good. But when it comes to voting for this thing, I doubt that Okorocha will vote to scrap the Senate. So we the people, have to take charge. Sovereignty belongs to us. We need to suggest anything. Let me tell you some things about the contradiction in what the Mr. President is doing, with due respect. It's just been published that Buhari or Sibajo to spend 3.3 billion on foreign and local travel. The president and the vice president himself.
3 points.
Yeah, 3.3 billion on foreign and local trips from the same budget to 2020. The president VP's food to cost 149 million. Published is from the details of the budget. See, that was why Labour has set up a team to study federal government's 2020 budget details. These things have been there. We in the media, have not been paying attention to budget details. So many of these things, the recurrent expenditure of this, what are the items in this budget for just less than 5% of the population? So if you want to cut costs, we will see it. Let me show you one contrast. Yesterday, when the president gave this directive, the same president also approved 6 officers for the office of the First Lady, including the person who signed it. One of the details was that a senior special assistant on media and publicity to the First Lady. And then the person who signed it, who signed that statement, is Director of Information in the office of the First Lady. This is not the time, it's not about criticism, it's not about anything. When you want to cut costs, you have to cut costs in your house first.
Absolutely. Start with yourself.
You start with yourself, and you don't entertain such things when they write memo for the approval of 6 senior officers to join those who have been there in the office of First Lady. Then Senior Special Assistant Media and Publicity, then Director of Information in the office of First Lady signed that statement. That is not a good statement from the presidency that is seeking to cut costs. So the cost we are talking about, the cost of governance within the presidency should be exemplary. And then it should be a party issue. In the Second Republic that he was talking about here, we saw how Unity Party of Nigeria was directing discipline in all the states they controlled. Even MPN, to a large extent, you will find distinction. But now, the political parties, especially the ruling party and the opposition parties, are not showing us discipline that he mentioned to show that they are capable of rescuing this ship that is headed for the rocks. So I think that the political parties should take control, as I said earlier, should take control, so that when Mr. President is talking about cutting costs in Abuja, he, as the leader of the party, should hold meetings beyond election time to say, look, there should be a direction for this government, and that this fiscal responsibility should be our forte, and it should be what people should know us for. When we are saying we should cut costs, these governors of the APC, for instance, they should also be given some directive. They should be appealed to, so that there should be a distinction, because election may not be going the way it is being going, because next election, and people will not trust us. So that they should show discipline. The word he mentioned is very, very important in governance. So that it is not just we are playing to the gallery, it is good, it is a front page story, it is good, the president has given this directive, we commend the president on this, but they should go to even the National Assembly. He just mentioned something, 13-point-something million running cost for a senator. When you multiply that one by 109 and 360 House of Representative members, I think, as Dr. Fayemi said, the governor of Ekiti State, we do not need a bicameral legislature at this time.
I have a phone call. Thank you for joining us.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead with your contribution, please. That's Akikwelu.
All right. Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Akikwelu.
Right. I want to join it from the man in the middle when he said that 13-point-something million was being expended on the senators. I want us to look at it from this perspective. If you take all the senators out from the 13-point-something million that they collect every month, and you now leave the House of Representatives with just one candidate or probably two from each state, you find that the election that we spend so much money and so much killing that goes around in our electoral process in this country, we drop. That will even stop the killing that people want to get into power at all costs. It will stop the killing. It will stop us from spending so much on election in this country. If we can do that, we will go elsewhere to the promised land that we've been looking at, that we couldn't get to, past in the days of the Awolowos. Are you getting my point now?
Yes,
if they can cut down on all the senators, forget about this 13-point-something million you spend on each of the senators, let them just go to places. Let us focus on the House of Representatives and just make them 2 from each state, if not 1.
Thank you for your suggestion, Akibolu.
At the end of the day,
thank you
we'll
for your
not be spending
suggestion.
too much on the electoral process.
We'll
save our money for the rainy days.
Yeah,
beaming the searchlight on the states now. We know I saw something online last week. A governor with 3 wives and choosing a special assistant
for each of the wives.
First lady, second lady, and I looked at it. I cannot readily confirm.
It's not new. When Yako was the governor of Adamawa State, he had 4 wives, and he said one is for First Lady Education, First Lady Health, First Lady Abuja. And that's the way each of them had people. That's why I said that seriousness, discipline. And like he said, he made one very important thing. It is up to us as the citizens. The politicians are few. It is we who must rise up and tell them that, look, we know what we want, and you must do what we want, or we push you out. But so far, the docility allows them to do whatever they like. The Nigerian people must wake up. People's power must come to play. In between elections, you don't wait until it is election time. And then, in any case, when it's election time, this party will give you somebody it thinks it may be one of the worst in the party. The other one gives you another one, and you choose between two worst things. That's all you are left with. It is when you rise up and you are able to say, look, this is where we are. Now, the cost of running this legislature is too heavy. It must come down by about 2/3. The people must say that and put their feet down. In between, the civil society organizations are there.
For the National Assembly, I think we have 130-something billion to run it, and somebody was saying that look at the whole budget for education.
125.
For the National Assembly, 125 billion for this year, and 43 billion for education, and another 42 billion for health.
And it's not only by National Assembly, the cabinet, the executive too. How much do we spend on running them? The agencies, many of them are moribund, many of them are not doing anything. We need to really go. We had the Oronsaye Commission that went around to talk about right sizing the agencies. We've not done anything about it. We are talking about how opaque the NNPC is, where we get the money to run things and so on. It's whatever they declare to us that we just take. We have not shown discipline. Fiscal discipline, discipline in national life, discipline in public affairs, we have not shown it. And unless we show discipline, we are not going to get anywhere. And the people must rise up.
You know, one very important thing, as we are encouraging Mr. President to continue to cut costs, but in contrast to what he himself just did, he mentioned 43 ministries. The Constitution talks about 36. But the same Constitution does not say they should have 36 ministries.
No.
You can get 36 ministers on 18 ministries.
Or 20, if you like.
In the way they structure bureaucracy around the world system, it's a very small world now. Why did the president separate aviation for transportation again? Why did the president remove police affairs ministry from interior after it was merged? He himself did it. So why did they create a Ministry of Humanitarian? They have NEMA, they have all those agencies. Even in the modern analysis, people have written that once you have an efficient NNPC, you don't need Petroleum Resources Ministry. There's even energy sector is consolidated around the world. We don't need more than 18 ministries because the cost of, we have not looked into the cost of running the office of a minister in this republic.
We have to move forward now. When elders begin to do what the young ones should be scolded for, then such situation calls for worry. The ominous signs of violence trailing the conduct of the November 16 governorship election in Bayelsa State is worrisome. The stakeholders meeting by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in Yenagoa was disrupted following a clash between members of the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressive Congress, APC. Trouble started when the party elders from both parties engaged in shouting match, forcing INEC chairman Professor Mahmood Yakub to end the program. Meanwhile, the police said they are deploying more than 30,000 policemen for the election. Let's share the story with you as packaged by TVC News correspondent Uvitime George.
A two-day working visit of the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission started with an inspection of the commission's office in Kayama, Kolokma-Opokuma Council area. Mahmoud Yakubu was also at the office of the INEC in Yenagoa and the resident electoral commissioner's apartment under construction. The national chairman of the INEC also visited the chairman and members of the Bayelsa State Traditional Rulers Council, where some issues were raised concerning the general elections in February and March this year.
Military presence was too much. And they not only were brought here by one or two candidates and used, they also, after the election, eliminated one or two persons who have actually won.
In some communities, in some local governments, already have internally displaced persons. Some have not been able to go back home, and I think that is in Southern Ijaw and Brass and Nimbe. So if you do not do something very special about it, they will not vote because they're already disenfranchised.
The INEC chairman responds to the concerns of the traditional rulers.
They also raised the issue of the internally displaced persons, particularly in Southern Ijaw, in Brass and Nembe, and these are matters we are going to discuss. We still have 31 days to the election. We'll respond to this. Our assurance to the people of BAYELSA State is that no citizen will be disenfranchised. We'll make sure that every registered voter who has his PVC has the opportunity to vote on November the 16th.
A stakeholders meeting in Yenagoa the following day was going on smoothly until this happened.
Effort must be made to return those people to their communities so that they can exercise their franchise in the coming election. The name of the community is Basambri. During that last...
We are coming back for further engagement until the issues that precipitated some of the challenges we experienced in the previous elections are addressed. But I'm leaving feeling that the majority of political parties and political actors and other stakeholders are committed to a peaceful process in BAYELSA State.
The onus is on the INEC and security agencies to put modalities in place to avert any breaches in the Bayelsa governorship election.
We're counting down to that election, Bayelsa and Kogi State election.
Yes.
And each of these states, they are very peculiar. The politics they play there, but the usual culprits, APC, PDP.
Unfortunately, I agree, of course, the major problem are the politicians. Yeah. They start by looking for loopholes. The same law that we are complaining about here, other people use it in other countries and it's successful for them. They don't. What's the size of the Constitution of the United States of America? What's the size of the ground norm in Ghana? The problem with our politicians is that they are looking for a way of cheating the system and cheating the people. They are not there to serve anybody. So they don't mind eliminating because the honey pot is there and they will do anything to get there or to protect it for themselves. And that's why I don't envy Professor Mahmood and his commission. Because whatever he does, many things are beyond him. Security is not his forte, for example. You are talking of displaced persons. Is he the one that will move them? I mean, is he the one that created the situation that created the internally displaced persons? Some of these things are beyond INEC. I'm not saying that they can't improve on their own processes. No, as we are going towards that, I'm afraid for Bayelsa State. He is optimistic that the majority of the people want peace. I'm not too optimistic about it.
Don't share his optimism.
No, I don't. Because politicians have a way of manipulating the people to work against themselves. The politicians work, these people who are the leaders, in fact, many times I don't call them leaders, they are dealers. Most of these people are dealers. They have a way of meeting, they have a way of sharing, they have a way of laughing and backslapping themselves in private. But when they come here and they have their stone face, the people, they draw out the dagger, they draw out the guns, and they begin to shoot themselves. All to know, neither of them will profit them in the end of the day, unless the people stand up and say, look, this is where we are going. Peace.
This is a state that is quite difficult to police because of the terrain.
Yeah.
You have people, they can elope through the creeks.
Oh, yes.
You have boys that are well armed, and you have non-state actors that, you know, they are so formidable.
They are better armed than the states.
And you know the DIG operations, Abdul Majid Ali was there, representing the IG, a meeting to conduct election in one state that has only 8 local governments.
And
Only 8 local governments. You have to get 30,000
policemen.
And
you have NSCDC,
you will have army, election.
You will have Navy.
In one state.
All deployed.
So, you know, the way the reporter put it in context, he said the onus, I don't believe that the onus is on INEC and security agencies. It's on the people. The INEC and security people and the security agencies did not cause this situation. They were there to ensure that this thing. So it is. We always put responsibility on INEC when we fail. In Benin Republic here, where we have observed elections, it's a local government person who put the ballot box on a motorcycle, on a motorbike, and then this tricycle, to conduct election, and at the end of the day, they carry it back. No police escort in the Republic here. And in so many West African countries like that. But what our own is different is the political class. Unless they put their house in order, and we will continue to experience this kind of thing. It is not about INEC's efficiency or efficiency of police. Yes, they participated in some of the problems. Yes, they took part. Rivers and some other places. This particular one, we should not talk about what they did before. This particular one, the people started. One party chieftain was talking, the other one jumped up, and then all that started talking. They didn't respect anybody there. They didn't respect traditional ruler. They didn't respect anybody. They started making noise. They had planned it. They disrupted everything.
The disruption did not come.
In the first instance, they may not even want this election to take place now.
That's all.
Why is it? You know what that person who called for the framework of how to reduce cost and the importance of reducing cost, that if we eliminate certain things, like that, there won't be attraction for this honeypot that he was talking about. That the way public office is held there, because they have seen that people who have served this government, this PDP government there in the last 4 years, they know what has changed around them. So those people are desperate to win election at all costs. And one scenario we built around this table in one discussion: win the election first.
Yes.
Let others go
to court.
Let others go to court, and we know what to do. The level of desperation is too much, and this is what is causing this now. We want to win at all costs. They are desperate.
How do we forestall the breakdown of violence?
I hope it's not too late. I hope it's not too late. But I think the National Orientation Agencies and co. should go about mobilizing, talking about attitudinal change. But it is not a short-term thing. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. It's something we should be working at for 4 years ahead. It's not that we have election next month and then you expect the people to change their minds. And so, people have been recruited as thugs. They are being paid. They work for their pay, as it were. Even if they will lose their lives, you give them guns and you give them drugs, and then they are set to go. No.
You know, if we restructure and a state knows what is at stake, the level of revenue, the IGR, and you are not expecting anything from Abuja, you see that that office will no longer be this attractive. So we need that restructuring. I want to conclude like that, so that states will take care of them, of whatever they want to take care of within the limit of their resources.
Gentlemen,
and that people
I want to thank you.
Also monitor.
Martins Oloja, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your contribution. Yeah. And Mobola Deomonojo, thank you so much for your contribution.
Pleasure to be here.
And that's our offering. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. And you can also catch us on YouTube. We are showing on other platforms, showing on the screen. So we're also on youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout at tvcnews.tv. I'm Ayodele Ozubaku. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.